In October of this year, 2025, there is going to be a third and final release of the Praesidus A-11 Utah Beach. The first two batches were released last year and they sold out very quickly. And if you're considering buying one, well, I hope that I can help you with that purchasing decision today by reviewing mine to see whether or not you should place your order in October. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James. You're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And before I owned this Utah Beach, when I was on the search to find one for myself, I already knew that it would be well made. I knew it would be well made because I've owned a couple of watches from Praesidus before, and they were great watches. They were well made watches, and they were watches that I really enjoyed wearing. But I knew I just wanted something a little bit different from a field watch. I've owned lots of field watches before, and I just find that I don't end up really sort of engaging with them, not as much as I would hope, which is why I thought this one, being so interesting and different and a nice size and so well made from a company that I like, might be the field watch for me that I would then start to build a connection with. And I knew this one would be good, again, because the company brings out some really well made watches. And this one in particular, I like the idea of because it was priced at $495 US, and I believe that is what the next release will be priced at too. And for that, you're getting a high-peak Miyota 9039 movement, a double-domed acrylic crystal which suits this watch, and there's three different variations. There is a black, a green, and my blue. Now I have to say, if you are picking between the black and the blue, it is worth being aware that the blue is very dark, because most of the time I think this one's black. And if you are going to purchase one of these, I think there really is two reasons why you might be considering it. And firstly, has to do with what is going on with the dial. That is because this is called the Utah Beach. The dial itself is specifically cut out to look like the Normandy coastline, identifying all the landing locations on D-Day, including Utah Beach. But the second reason, and probably more the reason why I was drawn towards it, I like the story, but the more the reason I was drawn towards it was because it was an interesting style of field watch. This is achieved partly because of that Normandy Beach coastline that has been cut out in like a sandwich layer on the dial. But it probably more has to do with the sand that has been collected from Normandy Beach itself and that has been trapped within those layers on the dial of this watch. But whether or not you're buying this one because you just think it is a really good looking and interesting watch, or you like the story behind it, I think it is worth knowing that it is a really nicely made watch and a really good set of dimensions too, because the case itself is 38 millimeters. It has a height of 13.9, a nice short lug to lug of 45.6, so it should suit lots of people's wrist sizes, a lug width of 20 millimeters, and it has quite a lightweight. It only weighs 75 grams, and that then translates to a watch that sits nicely onto my 17 centimeter wrist. Now, of course, they could have gone for a much more traditionally sized field watch. Being a representative of this time period, these watches were a lot smaller, but I think it is a good decision that they haven't. Partly because it makes it a little bit more wearable today, but also because there is so much on that dial with those different layers, with that sand, with that hovering sort of sandwich dial, that I think if it was on a smaller sized watch, it might feel a little bit squished on that dial. Oh, hello, sorry to interrupt. I hope you're enjoying the video so far, and if you are enjoying the video, I would just like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. You just have to click on that little subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does make a big difference to me and this channel, and really gives me that motivation to continue making content. But let's get back to this video. I also like the usability and reliability of this watch because I know it is powered by a 9000 series Miyota no-date variant. It does not have a screw down crown, but it does also have 100 meters of water resistance. And I like 100 meters of water resistance. I quite like not having a screw down crown when it comes to certain water resistances too. And I also really love those high beat Miyota movements. When you look past that double domed acrylic crystal, you'll see the majority of this case is all polished, which I don't mind too much because I think it suits this style. But I also do like that it has actually been broken up a little bit. Not so much with any brushing, but what it has been broken up with is that interesting bezel texture. A bezel texture that if you flip the watch over has been mirrored on the case back, which I think is really quite interesting. This sort of knurling effect, which does make me think of vintage watches. Also then sort of comes a feature because it's on the front of the watch and on the rear of the watch. And you'll also see that the lug ends are a little bit different. They have these flat lug ends. It doesn't curve around with the case. It sort of ends a little bit flat, which I don't see too often, but whenever I do see that, I do tend to quite appreciate it if it looks right on the watch, and I think it does in this case, but I appreciate it because it then makes the strap integrate nicely into the case, and no matter which strap you choose, it seems to integrate in the case a little bit better, so it doesn't have those gaps between the case and the top of that strap. Now it has a really nice case back, featuring the tribute to D-Day, some information that you can see there, and a nice subtle sort of textured sort of picture there. And it's nice, it's subtle, it's not too in your face, which I think actually suits it well, especially since there is so much already going on with this particular watch on the dial side. But the strap that comes with it is one of these sort of waffle style straps, which I'm going to say is not my favorite style. I can appreciate that this one is a very well made waffle style strap. It is comfortable, it fits well. Once I put it on, I don't seem to think too much about it, but it's not the style I will go for. This one, in fact, I think will look great on a canvas, and that is exactly what I've been doing. I've been wearing this one on a canvas strap, but I wanted to show you the original one for this review because it's not going to come with a canvas strap, it's going to come with one of these. So it's been really fun to have such an interesting watch. The story aside, just having an interesting dial the way that it is, it's something that is relatively easy to read still, but it is something that has been quite capturing of my attention. I look at this watch and then I look further at this watch and then I look at the layers of the dial and I think, that's actually very, very cool. And maybe that's why I wanted to wear this watch more than I probably have previously done with other field style watches. And because of all these details on this watch, especially on that dial, it has captured my attention. But it's also held my attention, which is fantastic, because normally from a field watch, from previous ones that I've had in my collection, even some really nice field watches, they've sort of, well, they've ended up not being worn very often. I thought the idea of a field watch in my collection was a good idea, but I'd kind of sort of worked away from that because all the ones that I'd had, I hadn't ended up wearing. This one I've ended up wearing a lot more than any of my others. And that is because of the interest factor and those details on this dial. So I've appreciated that. I've also appreciated the quality of it. And it is coming from a brand that I know I'm going to keep my eye on because I've enjoyed every watch that I've ever had from them so far. Thank you so much for watching. Maybe you'd like to watch a couple more of my videos next.